welcome to Ungimmicked. It is March of 2021. Woohoo! And March is Women's History Month.
It is Women's History Month.
So we are going to do a 3-part series talking about 3 women in magic that we have grown to love. And today, I want to tell you the story of one Lulu Hurst.
I've never heard of Lulu Hurst. I'm being completely honest. I've never heard of Lulu Hurst.
And it's normal that you haven't, because she is from the 19th century.
Yeah, so that's like the 1800s, right?
The 1800s.
1800s.
So she was born in 1869, if I'm not mistaken, in Georgia. Wow. So she is a Georgia girl. Her parents are from Tennessee. That's where her family is from. But those are facts that you can find on Wikipedia, and that is boring. So we're not going to talk about Wikipedia.
I don't want that.
I'm actually here to talk about her magic career. What a surprise, in a magic YouTube channel.
Really?
No, but I've fallen in love with this lady. I really have. She has become my favorite magician. I'm not. And
that's a big statement. Yeah.
You'll understand why, and not even for her magic, because what she did was not really magic as we understand it today. She had what was called the great unknown, the great force. She had a power.
A power.
And this power, she used to do these demonstrations. She went on. As I nick my microphone for the 5th time today.
You've done that so much. You have literally done, excuse my French, a shit ton of research.
A shit ton of research.
Like, this
French
is
excused.
ridiculous. French excused. Thank you. Like, you seriously dove. You didn't even just research. You, like, dove into the deep end.
I did.
Trying to find this information.
Because I fell in love with her. Connor, I'm going to tell you the story of a magician that had a career that lasted for less than 2 years, was written about on newspapers across the entire country.
Really?
And then, after she finished her career, years later, she published this book, where she explains and reveals every single one of the feats that she did and explains in detail how and why they work.
And she only had a career for 2 years.
Less than that.
Less than 2 years?
She ended the career herself.
Sense.
She retired before she was 16 years old.
After less than 2 years.
She was not 16 yet.
Wait, so her career started before she was 16?
Her career started when she was 14.
And then it went to 16. And
it went to 16, and she was like, I'm done.
That's super young.
Let me tell you why.
That's so young.
Isn't it?
I was thinking this whole time that she was like
She's a girl.
40.
It was a girl.
No, that's like a teenager.
Yeah.
What?
So the 18th of September of 1883, the power manifested itself for the first time. She has her cousin visiting, and her cousin is staying with her in the room. And that night, on the 18th of September, there was apparently a huge storm. Like a storm, a proper storm.
Yeah, like thunder and lightning.
In the middle of the night, there was a sound that was coming, that startled both Lulu and her cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, where is this coming from? And they noticed that it came from Lulu's bed. So they were like, what is this? So the family comes in, they call the entire family, they turn the bed inside out.
Yeah.
They couldn't find anything, but the noise kept happening.
Okay.
That is this weird noise that scared them at first. And then they were like, oh, what is this? And that was talk of the family the next day. And then they started noticing more things happening around the house. Pieces of clothing would go from place to place. Like the crazy things. So then the family and started asking the neighbors what is going on. People started coming over to check it out. Then somebody proposed, one of the neighbors, family member, whatever, that the power was associated with Lulu. So they put it to the test. And it was. It seemed that everything happened around. It was Lulu's bed. Things were happening around her. And then objects started moving in the house. And all of this was attributed to Lulu. Her parents did not like the idea of this because her parent was a very respected member of the Baptist church as well.
Oh, I didn't.
So her family had reverends.
Yeah, I'm sure they were like trying to get that out of there.
So the idea of being a spirit freaked everybody out. Lulu didn't seem to mind it.
I mean, that's so cool. But that's kind of weird.
So it creates this idea that these intelligent spirits that manifest themselves through Lulu were doing some work around the house. And then friends, family, neighbors, they forced the family. You need to do a public demonstration of this power. People need to see this. Again, her dad really does not like this idea. But because all of this was happened, her house was now known as the haunted house.
Of course, because it was haunted.
So
somehow.
People hear about this all the way in Atlanta, which is 60 miles from Cedartown, which is the town that she's in.
In
And
Georgia.
people
Yeah.
are coming to her house to see this demonstration because it generated a buzz.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane.
And that night, chairs fly across the room, canes. She did the demonstrations that then she goes on to do on the stage for a year and a half. And so her career began. She was written about in every single newspaper in Georgia.
Because the power was associated to her.
The power was associated to her.
Almost like the spirit the power had clinged onto her, and so she was able to demonstrate the power.
Or the power demonstrated itself through her.
Through her. Okay, got it.
So everybody writes about her. Every newspaper loves her. This is the story of the century.
Yeah, I mean, this kid, I mean, are you kidding me?
And the career begins. No, so I found this. I want to show you. This is an advertisement that was posted in a newspaper in Georgia that announces one of her shows, one night only, on May 19th.
And this is to demonstrate the power.
Yeah, this is one of her shows, basically.
And what is she doing in these shows? Like what? Like
I haven't told you. You're right. So, and why is this magic at all? I haven't even said that. So what she used to do, and you can read there, it says she's the magnetic girl. So what she would do, she would get on stage, one of her demonstrations, for example, she would ask normally strong men to hold a pull cue or an umbrella. And just by touching this umbrella, it would start moving. And these strong men could not control themselves, and they would go tumbling around the stage from just her touch. That also, this was another one of the demonstrations. She asked one very strong man to hold a chair. And she put her hand on the chair. And then as many men as you could, trying to push that chair to the floor, it would not touch the floor. If her hand was on it.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
You had 7 men on it.
And they
trying to push it down. And they couldn't do it.
Yeah, this is just described as wonderful acts. That's how this newspaper describes it.
Yes.
That's so weird.
So
especially with the hand one, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Because nobody knew what this was. And everybody, you have clippings here of people saying, no, this is definitely electricity. No, this has to be magnetic. No, these are the power of the spirits. Nobody had any idea.
Nobody knew.
Important to note, Lulu always said that she did not believe any of the superstitious ideas in the slightest. And she knew she wasn't using electricity or magnets.
Did she say that explicitly?
Yeah, she says it multiple, and she says it in the book hundreds of times. She's like, I never believed any of this. I couldn't explain what I was doing myself.
Interesting.
Because I didn't know what was happening, but
she just knew that she could do it.
She just knew that she could do it. She didn't know how or why. So her fame keeps growing, and she does a tour through the eastern states. Wow. She goes through, I think, North Carolina. Then she goes up to Washington, D.C., New York. She has a long run in New York. Really? Then she starts traveling inward a little bit to Massachusetts. An important thing about Washington, D.C., and this is a story that is told in her book, and I have tried to track this down. I have not yet, as the date of recording. I will add something on the screen to see if I found it by the time of editing. But there's an account in the book that she was studied by none other than Alexander Graham Bell.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were telling me about this.
That's the inventor of the telephone.
That's the inventor of the telephone. And he was studying her to see what was going on with the power.
In D.C., Graham Bell and a bunch of other fellow scientists, Bell is the name that is dropped naturally. They put her through tests trying to understand what was happening. And she says none of them could account for it. None of them could explain it.
Ridiculous.
And then she says, and this is where it gets really interesting. That's when she says that they collected a sample of her blood. They put it under the microscope, and they said that it was the most wonderful specimen of blood they had ever seen.
Oh, so they took her blood to see, like, if she was superhuman almost. To be like, what? Okay, let's check this girl's blood.
And they said the blood was perfect. Now, whatever that means.
Flawless, right? Whatever flawless means in 1884.
Here's where it gets really fun. She claims that specimen of blood was put up for exhibition in the Smithsonian Institute.
She says that in her book?
She says that in the book.
Okay.
I have contacted the Smithsonian Institute. And I sent an email to the general contact saying, hey, I'm researching this lady. Do you have this specimen of blood? Mm-hmm. And they responded back saying, hey, in these records, general records that we have, we can't find them. Contact the medicine department directly. And I did. Ridiculous. And I talked to a very, very nice gentleman whose name is Drew. And he sent me actually 2 emails. And he exhausted a bunch of sources. And none of them produced that thing. But he sent me some other sources that I have contacted. I'm waiting on a response. I haven't gotten it yet. And that's why, as of date of recording, that specimen of blood does not exist today. More than that, no record of that exists.
No, it is somewhere.
But it must be somewhere, so I'm going to keep looking.
Because you can't just put that in your book and be like,
you can't.
Yeah, I put it in the most famous museum ever. You know what I mean? Like,
and then not being?
And then have it not, no record of it at all.
So I will find that, right? And when I do, I will post about it. This is when they interviewed Lulu, and I'm quoting from Savannah Morning News in Georgia, published May 18th, 1884. In conversation with Miss Hurst, the Morning News representative asks, "Does the effort tire you?" "Not at all," she replied. "Do you feel any peculiar sensation?" "None whatever." "Does the lifting the chair strain you as lifting a heavy weight?" "I feel no weight at all. It seems as if somebody else was doing the lifting." "What do you think about it?" "I don't know anything about it." And this is for you.
She's claiming now on these articles that she doesn't know how they're done either.
And she claims it throughout the book that she had no idea as she was performing what she was doing. Now,
after that doesn't make any sense at all. That makes no sense at all.
It doesn't, but it will.
It will eventually. I know it will, but I'm just kind of waiting for it to make sense.
So September 4th, 1884, there's a cigarette ad.
A cigarette ad?
So this cigarette company was using Lulu Hurst's name because she became so famous to advertise their own cigarettes. Read that. I want you to read that out loud.
If you have not yet tried the Lulu Hurst brand, call at Arthur's and get some.
See?
So they had some cigarettes.
Cigarettes made with her as a branding.
That is ridiculous.
So,
have you tried them?
I have not tried 19th century cigarettes.
As of just reading this. I wasn't asking you. The topic is, have you tried them? But I'm glad to know you haven't tried them. I have not. I would hope that you have not tried them.
I want to show you a picture of her. This is the closest thing we have to a picture. It's a drawing.
Okay.
This was published in Frank Leslie's Illustrated Magazine on the 26th of July in 1884. Okay.
They're trying to push the chair down.
They are trying to push the chair down, and they're not able to.
And she's in the dress, obviously.
And she's in the dress.
Holding it up. And where was this what was the illustration? Is this from the West? Was this West or was this East?
That West? Is, I think, still from her performances in the East right before she headed West.
Gotcha. Cool.
So she's wildly successful in New York.
Yeah.
She performs at the Wallack's Theater for weeks. I think she's ridiculous. 3 weeks in New York. She makes a name for herself that's immense, so big that she travels west. And she goes all the way to San Francisco.
San Francisco? That's
that is as far as you can go.
That's literally as far as you can go. As far west as you can go, right?
All the skeptics in the East are not skeptics anymore. Everybody's a believer. Everybody that sees her performances, they're all lovely, they're all amazing, great reviews in every newspaper, and nobody's a skeptic anymore. In the West, people were skeptics, and they remain skeptics. I'm going to quote from Morning Union, California, September 21st, 1884. Miss Lulu Hurst, the electrical or some other kind of wonder from Georgia, is not meeting with great success in San Francisco.
Like, some stuff is going wrong in the West.
Stuff is going wrong in the West. And when she goes to Denver, then a lot of copycats show up. And actually, this is the Colorado Daily Chieftain from November 15th, 1884.
Wow.
That talks about a performance that was given in some place in Denver.
Somewhere in Denver.
After she left Denver. Miss Hurst's performance would be duplicated in every respect by a lady present, but owing to the fact that the lady did not desire to be publicly known, she would appear before the audience veiled and otherwise disguised. And it goes on to say that this performance was a success.
So people went on stage with her? Is that what it's
No, without her. She was in Georgia by that time.
Okay, so people went on stage and just tried to
and apparently they did.
And they did. So now at this point, we've seen a lot of duplications. So she went to the West. She didn't have as much success. And on the journey to the West, we really started to see almost like the downfall of the power. It's not so much this power anymore. It's something else that people are able to replicate. Unless for some reason they have the so-called power. Right?
Exactly.
So this is kind of start of her downfall. I'm assuming.
A little bit. We're reaching also the end of the book in the end of her accounts because then she says that she gets to the point after a performance in Knoxville, Tennessee. She turns to her family and she says, "I am done with this."
Ooh.
Now, why is this so weird?
She just stopped.
Her fame was immense. She was about to go on a tour of Europe.
Really? Is that in the book? Did you read that part in the book?
Yeah, that's in the book, but it's
everywhere.
It is. Yeah, she was gonna go to Europe.
Like, you have to go on your boat.
Yeah, you gotta go on a boat. It makes it a lot farther.
Yeah, I know. Weeks and go to Europe doing this.
And she was going to do a tour of Europe, a tour of England. She had piles of money to talk. Let's see how much money she was making, because I have here.
In 1884. I mean,
in 1884. This is reported, of course, so we don't know how factual this is. Daily Alta, California. September 7th, 1884. Quote, Lulu Hurst left Atlanta, Georgia, Friday night for San Francisco to fill a $10,000 contract for performances in California.
That is a lot of money. $10,000 is a lot of money right now. Imagine $10,000 in 1884. Jeez.
Why does this matter? Why do I love this lady? Why do I make such a big claim as she's my favorite magician or person almost? She retires because she says, this is too much pressure on me. People believe that I have a power that I know I don't have, and devotes the rest of her life explaining why what she did was physics.
Physics. Everything was physics. Is that what you're telling me?
And suggestion. Suggestion plays into it as well. This is a lady. Let's be honest. In the 19th century, women were perceived as not supposed to be thinkers.
Yeah.
But
and
she was.
A teenager.
A teenager.
Not even a lady. A teenager.
So she breaks the mold. She grows beyond herself, breaks gender barriers, and spends the rest, she dedicates her life to studying her own power. And then writes a book.
Bizarre. About her power.
About her power, and explaining why.
And every single feat that she did. That is bizarre. That is so bizarre.
And now you might ask, wait, what about that stormy day? What happened?
Oh yeah, in the beginning.
What happened that stormy day?
What's up with that?
The first time that noise happened, it really scared Lulu, she says in the book. It scared her. But then she found out what it was. One of her hairpins got stuck in the mattress and made a popping noise. And she realized that. And she saw her cousin was scared. So she kept doing it because she was a prankster and pranked their whole family for a week. The biggest magic career of the 19th century starts with a prank. That just blows out of proportion. It's a prank.
Imagine being like this 14-year-old girl, just being like, oh, let me prank my sibling.
And then you have neighbors coming over.
And then all of a sudden your neighbors coming over, like, oh, I guess I'm going to be doing this prank a little bit more. Look at me, guys, I can do it. And all of a sudden it's like, you're getting published about, people are taking you everywhere. So then how did she figure out all the other feats?
By accident.
She figured out the chair, the broom,
all these things.
All these other
she
feats
figured it
accident.
out by accident. There was also another test that is not written about in her stage career because she only did it in private exhibitions in more close to the beginning of her career. Table rapping. They would sit down at a table and the spirits would communicate through the table. They would make these raps or these noises. And it was her messing with the wood on the table. It was her all along, and she knew that part. Because she controlled that. It was her that was...
She just never understood why. She just knew that she could do these small little things.
Lifting a chair. People not being able to push her. She was like magnetized to the floor.
The pushing of the you said she pushed people, right?
Or people tried to push her.
People tried to push her.
And they couldn't. A prank. A prank.
It all started as a prank. Wow. That is... I can't even imagine being... No wonder why she stopped. Because it's like, okay, I can't keep this up any longer. Like, it started off as a joke. Now here I am making $10,000 in 1884. And then it's like, okay, well, people are catching on. That's a lot of stress for a 14 to 16-year-old.
Why did she expose all of this? And she says, quote, "It has been and is my purpose to present this matter so forcibly and clear and make my demonstration so complete as to leave no possible room for doubt. To accomplish this has required time, study, thought, preparation." So she really did devote her life to figuring this out. And she does. And she writes about it. I love her. I love her.
Wow. And then she studied physics and just devoted her life to it.
So she started with this question, and quote,
"Could a child, 14 years of age, without exercising an amount of conscious muscular power or aggressive force at all, commensurate with the unreckoned force opposing her by some unrecognized law of physics, mechanics, or leverage, overcome and annihilate such unreckoned amount of muscular force when opposed to her in certain specified ways of
that was very long. Basically, could a kid do this? No. So it has to be physics, and she figures it out. I've said that 5 times, but it just gets me so excited.
No, it's so crazy that she was able to do all this. I think what amazes me the most is that she figured all this out. Like, she somehow figured out that she could hold a chair up and people wouldn't be able to push it. Like, as a 14 to 16-year-old girl, she was able to figure that out on her own.
She was called a spirit medium of high order that she passed as silly nonsense and rank superstition. She didn't like being looked upon as some abnormal, quasi-supernatural sort of being.
That's why she stopped. It's just like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
So if you want to know how Lulu Hurst fooled the world 150 years ago, it's in here. I've read it.
Read it. Link in description. You could read it
So
yourself.
it's in there. It exists, and she wrote it for us to have it.
Wow. And she wrote a book. God, what didn't she do? What didn't this woman do? Or teenager? I mean, like...
As we're wrapping this up, I want to do one more quote. This comes straight from the book. Of the tens of thousands who witnessed and tested the power, no one ever solved the great secret. Every one of my tests was done on the open stage with spectators and investigators all around me, and in the brightest and best light that gas and electricity could afford. And it is true, because all the newspapers that I can find, even the San Jose Mercury, published on September 23rd, 1884, which correctly assumes exactly what's going on with the power. Wow. No, you don't get to do this. No. 7 hours of recording for the cameras to lose battery all at the same time in my last sentence. So, if you're curious, this is the article that I was referencing. You can read it over here. And that is the end of our story with Lulu Hurst. We hope you have enjoyed. We have 2 more episodes on this series coming out over the month of March, so make sure you subscribe. You can also follow us on social media @ungimmick. And if you're wondering why there are post-its behind me, check our TikTok @ungimmick as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.